I'd like to thank Carlsbad City staff for their work on the master plan and for their collaboration with commission staff on this item. Unless there are any questions, this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any ex partes with respect to this item? Seeing none, this item is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. I do have a number of speaker slips from the applicant, City of Carlsbad. A number of them indicate they are here just to answer questions, but I want to be clear. So first I'll call Scott Donnell. Mr. Donnell, are you speaking for the applicant?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, how much time might you need?
About a minute.
That would be great. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you. My name is Scott Donnell. I'm a senior planner with the city and have been the project manager for this Village and Barrio Master Plan since its inception about 6 years ago. It has been, for the most part, a labor of love, and it is a reflection of a substantial amount of community input. As Mr. Hitchens mentioned, the discussion about community character and the bike plan were both important concepts that were discussed through many public meetings, many redraftings of the master plan, and have resulted in the document that both our City Council approved and that has been presented before you today. We are in support of the Coastal Commission staff's recommendation, as well as the suggested modifications and addendum, and we thank you for your time as well as that of staff, and we are happy to answer any questions should you have them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. I have a request to address the commission from Robert Schlegel, Carlsbad by the Sea, followed by Joan Johnson, Carlsbad by the Sea, followed by Jack Cumming. Is Mr. Schlegel present? Afternoon and welcome.
Yes.
How much time might you need, sir? I can limit you at 3 minutes. If you can do less, that'd be great.
3 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, I live in Carlsbad by the Sea, and we are part of the Friends here. And the reason I'm here is because I have dementia, and the fellows, Carlsbad by the Sea, do not have the things to take care of people if they get real serious, dementia or Alzheimer's. So I can see to my future that my sister, she had to go, her husband had to put her in a place, and he can only come every week. And she finally died last month. Now, I'm going back in that same way. So my wife doesn't drive. So if I have to leave Carlsbad by the Sea and go someplace else, she won't even be able to hardly ever come to me. So we're trying to have a facility built right next to Carlsbad by the Sea. And we'd like to have you approve that so that we can have our loved ones can come over there every day to be there to give us support as we go down and pass away. And that's what we want from you to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schlegel. Joan Johnson, followed by Jack Cumming.
Good afternoon. I'll just be brief as well. I won't take 3 minutes. I'm the executive director at Carlsbad by the Sea, where Mr. Schlegel lives, and I'm here with about 9 of our other residents who live at Carlsbad by the Sea. I've been there for about 7.5 years, and over that period of time, we have had to ask about 12 residents to leave our community. We are currently licensed to provide care for people who are independent living, assisted living, and not for memory care. We also have a skilled nursing building. We're located right in the village of Carlsbad, which is one of the reasons many of the people choose to move to Carlsbad by the Sea. So we support the village and the barrio master plan. This will allow us to be able to build a memory care building on a ground floor. So it's been very difficult. As I say, one of the most difficult parts of my job is to sit down with families and residents who have lived there for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, such as Bob and his wife, who currently, if he needed to go someplace, would have to move out of our community. So we are definitely in support of this. This will allow us to be able to build that building on a ground floor and continue to be able to support the folks who develop memory loss that want to stay at our community and be supported by the friends, the family, extended family that residents become after they have lived in this kind of a facility for a long time. So over the past 7 years, we've developed an outstanding relationship with the church next door. We don't have property of our own to build on. So we partnered with St. Michael's by the Sea, our neighbor to the north of us, and we will be leasing property from them and building a memory care building on that. So residents would be able to walk back and forth and be able to stay in the community and be with their loved ones. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. Jack Cumming, followed by Mary Krakowski, also from Carlsbad by the Sea.
I'm a resident, so, and first I want to thank you all for your service. I understand that you guys don't get paid, and this is my first encounter with you all, and I'm just struck by how the legal and planning technicalities and the complexity and scope of what you do. But I just want to talk about the humanity of a couple of things. One is we have what's called a continuing care contract. We pay a large entrance fee and monthly fees to be secure for the rest of our lives. But because there's no memory care where we live, people are evicted when they lose their memory, and that has been very tragic. And there's a catch-22. The state of California requires that memory people have access to the outdoors. That's only human, so that they're able to go out and walk a little bit. And so we support this plan because this changes things so that we will be allowed to give the residents that outdoor access, which is only human. On another aspect of this, we also live in the village. It's very pedestrian friendly. It's a lovely place to be. I don't know if you've ever been there. If you haven't, come join us. We welcome visitors. We really love to have visitors, and we get lots of them during the summer. One of the things that we really need are services to serve them. So there's a threat to some of those services, such as having a grocery store. Now, as I understand it, Gary Nessum's going to speak to you later. He's more versed in the economics of the incentives that create those needed services that visitors require. So I'll defer to him for that. But I just want you to keep in mind that this is about human beings, people late in life, people who felt they were secure, who don't want to face eviction merely over a legal technicality, and approving this village master plan can help achieve that human result.
Thank you, sir. Mary Krakowski. Welcome, Mary. Your time is limited to 3 minutes.
That's okay.
Less if less.
I think I'm going to not say too much because it's already been covered. I was just going to give a couple little anecdotes, but I won't take up the commission's time. I'm a resident there, and it's going to be my forever home. And if I'm going to be there for another 20 years, and I develop all these friendships, and all of a sudden I develop the memory care issues, I would like to stay there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I'm supportive of the Village and Barrio plan, master plan.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Gary, I apologize. Nessig or Nesser, forgive me.
Nessum,
welcome.
thank you very much. I'm in favor of the Village and Barrio Master Plan, the new revision. In the section that we're going to modify under number 15, modifying sections that allow for a 25-foot deep minimum average retail section. that is way too shallow. That's conceding most of these lots to parking spaces and so it's not going to get the active street front that you're looking for. If you think about any retail space you've ever been into, 25 feet is not a workable amount of space. And this is Carlsbad Boulevard and Carlsbad Village Drive that are in the coastal zone and a major part of this area. And so that should really be a minimum of 50 feet. So, and it shouldn't have the word average in there. You really need to have each place in that along the street front be at least 50 feet deep and not allow shallow sections and have one section be really deep. That way you have an opportunity to get restaurants. If you think of any restaurant you've ever been into, they really couldn't exist. If you needed a 2,000 square foot restaurant and the spaces that the builders will build when they knock down buildings are only 25 foot deep, you'd have to have 400 foot of frontage for your restaurant, and it'll be 25 feet deep, because no builder is going to build something with an excessive amount of commercial space right now. They're really looking to build residential units. And the commercial space on the front is really like a loss leader that they have to put in. The cheapest way for them to put parking in is to use the ground floor. And if you let them do a really shallow frontage, then they're really using the first floor for parking spaces and not going underground for parking spaces. So you're taking away all this useful frontage space in the village and making it into residential parking spaces. That's a bad precedent to set. And all the new buildings in the Carlsbad the last 5 years are that way. They're all shallow commercial space. The first floor is residential, no one goes underground, and that's a really bad precedent to set. So you really need to change that to 50 feet for it, and that's in the modification number 1 for section 2.71I and 2.731I. That should be at least a 50-foot minimum depth. And the word average shouldn't be there. That allows someone to be, staff to be excessively flexible to someone who doesn't really want to put the space in.
Thank you very much. Does the City of Carlsbad wish to make any rebuttal comment into the record? If so, please come forward.
Thank you. We appreciate Mr. Nessum's input. He's been an active participant in the master plan since the beginning. The question about commercial space depth was debated quite a bit at the Planning Commission meetings, in particular last year. We had a consultant who vehemently supported a minimum ceiling height requirement, minimum of 14 feet, which is in the master plan, but felt strongly that no minimum commercial space depth be required, simply because of the changing nature of retail. Retail today is different than it was 10 years ago. Other factors for our part of Carlsbad in the village is that many of the lots are small, and it is difficult to meet that 50-foot depth and provide other requirements, such as parking, for example. When we worked with Coastal Commission staff on this question, we felt that the 25-foot minimum depth dimension that they recommended was reasonable, particularly along the two main drags in our village area, Carlsbad Boulevard and Carlsbad Village Drive. We did request, as an addition to that minimum depth requirement, that there be an average stated, that be an additional word added, and that's simply because in thinking about that minimum 25-foot depth, there are occasions due to architectural interest, due to things like providing outdoor dining, where there might be a need for flexibility. Hence, we requested the addition of the word average. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the speakers in rebuttal. This is a public hearing. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to staff.
Thank you, Vice Chair Padilla. Just a couple of points on the Carlsbad by the Sea question relative to permitted uses. The existing facility that they've described, it does have frontage along Carlsbad Boulevard, but it would be under this new plan a non-conforming use because residential care would not be normally a permitted use in a visitor commercial area. But nonetheless, we certainly recognize its presence, and the focus of the modification is such that just on that Carlsbad Boulevard frontage, we want to maintain the continuity of a pedestrian streetscape with visitor commercial uses. So in talking with the city, Carlsbad by the Sea could redevelop that adjoining property as long as they did it with some mixed-use development so that the Carlsbad Boulevard frontage had the visitor commercial orientation. So we think they'll be able to design a project that would work, still provide them with ground level access, courtyards, whatever they would need. So we think that will still work under the plan. With regard to the question about the 25-foot depth, it was something that we did discuss a lot with the city. Our feeling was that the minimum depth of at least 25 feet was more important than the floor to ceiling height. And you know, specifying 25 feet as a minimum doesn't mean they couldn't go larger. It was just that we didn't want secondary uses. The whole concept of the plan is to do mixed-use development. A lot of the uses that'll be on the upper level could be residential, could be office, and we didn't want the ground level being usurped for parking to support those uses. So we were trying to make sure that we would get a continuous, integrated number of retail, visitor, commercial oriented leaseholds. And we felt that 25 feet or an average of 25 feet. Some of the lots are smaller, but there's also a lot of consolidation that could happen with these lots. And so we agreed with the city that that variety gave opportunities, but would still guarantee that there was going to be an activated streetscape. That would conclude our comments.